We welcome you back in. There's some smiling faces after a night that Mountaineer fans will never forget. We go from the still photo to the actual live on video look. We are joined here tableside now by WVU head coach Dana Holgorsen. Jed Drenning is with us as well. Well, my friend, the day that coaches either love or in the middle of or don't like at all.
I think every coach likes the fact that it's over with. You know, they don't like the anxiety that it brings, the lack of sleep, the nervousness, the anticipation of whether all your hard work's going to pay off. And then once it's over, everybody's all smiles and they're fired up about the guys that you get, and they're fired up about moving on to the next year's class, which happens today. I've already been on the phone with 4 juniors today, so it moves on pretty quick, and but everybody's pretty excited about this thing getting wrapped up.
Dana, let's start way back here as this thing was starting to develop literally a year ago. You knew what your losses were going to be from graduation, and you knew what you needed to do. So if you were to put a theme around this class, what was the instruction to your staff? Guys, I want to go in this direction when it comes to personnel to begin with. Where'd you need to go?
Well, right, really just variety. Our numbers are so healthy right now. There's been so much, we've talked about this for so much, whether it was 4 years ago or whether it was this past year on the radio show or whatever. The numbers are healthy right now. We're going to have 71 guys in spring football. I mean, that's an awful lot. That's more than we played the Orange Bowl year. That's more than for spring practice. We got more bodies than we did for the 2012 Orange Bowl year. So being able to go out and identify guys, recruit a better, more talented guy was important. We're going to sign somewhere around 22, 23 guys a day, which counts our midterm guys. We had 5 come in at midterm. We'll get another 17 guys or so, which is going to put our number well above 85. So we got some decisions to make. We got very healthy numbers. That's the exciting thing, just building depth more than anything. If any of these guys can come in and play, it's going to be a bonus.
You have seen an evolution in your recruiting since the Big 12 affiliation began. Initial direction was a little bit of a taste, although you knew you weren't going to live down in the Southwest, but you went a little Texas. Now it's come back around, and we're seeing the traditional areas for West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and then down into Florida. My question to all of that, with that being the background on this, now that the Big 12 brand is established for WVU, you have gone into 3 seasons in the league. How now is the brand being perceived, where perhaps initially there had to be some learning and educating going on between the coaching staff and the potential recruit?
Yeah, we made the decision to kind of remove ourselves from Texas just a little bit. Once we were competing against all the schools in Texas, it made it a little bit harder to get that caliber of player that we needed to be able to compete in the Big 12. I was a little unfamiliar with the Northeast. I was a little unfamiliar with the East Coast. Even down into Florida, I was somewhat unfamiliar with it. So kind of got my bearings about me as far as what kind of a caliber of talent there is on the East Coast, and they're every bit as talented on the East Coast, Florida, or even up in the Northeast as well. So we decided to cut our teeth with the surrounding states and down into Florida, which is what made West Virginia great back 2 decades ago. And then we started going out, what kind of kid can we recruit? And it's a much better kid. We're not recruiting against some of the smaller schools on the East Coast like we used to be when we were in the Big East. Mm-hmm. Now it's all about competing against Big Ten, competing against ACC, competing against SEC. And then we even kind of started recruiting against the Big 12 in Florida because they're coming over as well. It's a little easier to sell that brand just because 3 years, a lot of these kids have came over for game day and they see 62,000 screaming crazy fans that are passionate about Mountaineer football. And then the opponents have name recognition. They're nationally ranked, and the TV screen is doing wonders for us. Every one of these games is on TV, and every one of these games is up-tempo and exciting brand of ball. So kids want to be a part of Big 12 football, even though it's on the East Coast.
Coach, you talked about the anxiety for all coaches associated with the whole process. You've been doing this for a long time, decade and a half now. Talk about the fundamental differences when you first started at Texas Tech through to, say, this year. I would have to imagine social media has played a role. Attention creates a feeding frenzy. These kids feed off attention. And now with the 24-hour sports news cycle, there's more attention than there's ever been. Talk about what it's like to recruit today and the things you deal with versus, say, 2001.
Well, yeah, I think each kid's different. You know, if you look at each one of the kids that signed with us today, I could go down you know, player by player, recruit by recruit, and tell you whether they were caught up in recruiting or whether they were not caught up in recruiting. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys that, or I'm not going to tell everybody as far as what everybody is. But there's some kids that it's the same as it was 20 years ago. Yeah, they have no interest in social media. They have no interest in being recruited. They have no interest in other schools because they're sold on West Virginia, and they don't have any interest in doing anything but going to West Virginia. Then there's a handful of guys that really love the recruiting process, and they love social media. They love the attention. They love retweeting things. They love doing interviews. They love committing to 4 schools and then decommitting from 4 schools. You know, and I don't think that's going to change. You know, the only way I think you can kind of get away from getting kids to be able to do that is through an early signing period. And I do think there's going to be a strong presence from head coaches in our spring meetings to try to get an early signing period. I think it makes sense to me to you know, the early signing period that exists in December. You know, if you've had guys that have been committed to you for a year, there's no reason why those guys can't sign. Then it's going to save the school thousands of dollars. It's going to save a lot of headaches for the recruits. You know, there's times where we would go to these guys' house in January, and they would look at us like, "What are you doing here?" You know, I've been committed for a year and a half. I ain't going anywhere. Why are you here? Well, we're going to continue to do our job and follow through with the visits to go see them, even though we don't have to. So, you know, that will cut down on some of the signing day stuff, some of the surprises, some of the, you know, the flips, what the media loves to put the attention onto now, which I think will be good for everybody.
If I'm not mistaken, when you first got here, you were kind of surprised because in the Big 12 corridor down there, when a kid said he was going there, for the most part, there weren't flips. A lot more on this side of the country, right?
Well, I've seen it. I've seen that change as well. You know, talking to a lot of my Texas friends, a lot of the Texas coaches, a lot of the guys that are in the Big 12, they're getting as many flips as we are. You know, which I didn't see happening 10 years ago. So I think that's social media. You know, there's so much guidance in the state of Texas and so much support with high school coaches and all that I didn't see it as much 10 years ago, but I'm seeing it now in Texas. So I think they got a problem there as well.
Dana, let's jump in here and talk some position-specific stuff. 5 kids came in at the semester break. 2 of those young men are high school seniors that graduated early, and they are going to be into the midst of it. They're conditioning now. They'll go out on the field next month. They'll be out there for the month of April for spring ball. Talking about David Sills and Chris Chuganoff. Let's talk about each of those 2 guys individually. First off, Chuganoff from the state of New Jersey. What did you like about him, and what can you tell us since he's been here? What are you hearing?
You know, Chris is he's a very intelligent kid, high GPA, high SAT. You know, had a bunch of success in high school, threw for a lot of yards, won a lot of football games. We had him up here in camp, and I just loved the way the kid competed and loved how he threw the ball. Very accurate, strong arm. Has got above average mobility. I mean, he can move around a little bit. He's not the tallest guy in the world, but you know, at 6'1", obviously tall enough. But has you know, just extremely accurate. Just love how he throws the ball. David Sills comes in just with a tremendous football IQ. Is a smart kid with a high SAT as well. I'm just excited about being able to have a bunch of bodies to work with. This is the first spring that I've had with more than 2 scholarship quarterbacks. All the other 4 spring practices I've had, we've only had 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So we have numbers, we have depth, we're going to have competition. You know, just excited about watching those guys develop and see who rises. I'm going to start coaching those guys on Monday. We'll take a few days off after signing day, and then we come back on Monday. We'll be able to start meeting with them. They've been blowing me up, saying when we're going to start meeting because they're eager. I said just go ahead and get in the weight room for a few weeks and and figure out where you're going. We'll start talking ball on Monday.
How do you view it at this point? When you go out onto the field, is it literally a 5-person open competition at this point?
Yeah, it is, and Skylar knows that, and Skylar did a great job towards the end of the year coming in, gaining some experience, which is going to do nothing but get him ahead of where everybody else is at. William Crest looks great. See him down there. He looks phenomenal. I asked him how he's feeling with his shoulder and throwing the ball, and it says he's never felt better. So he's in a good place. Paul's got just a ton of reps underneath his belt, and he has continued to work hard to get himself in as good a shape as he possibly can. Got 5 options, and we will play ball, and we will see who rises to the top.
From a scheme standpoint, with those 5 options, some of the kids in that room obviously present different things than some of the kids traditionally have playing in your system. I mean, when you look at a William Crest in particular, David Sills can move around. You talked about Chugginaw being more athletic than what people give him credit for. Skylar, we saw it in the 2 games that he started. Talk about where the scheme's going, because I've heard you talk about how things evolve and the X factor, the added dimensions that you and Shannon have talked about in recent years about where you see the offense progressing to.
Yeah, we're not going to recruit pure pocket quarterbacks anymore. We're going to continue to recruit athleticism with, and obviously that's kind of becoming the norm. So the better they throw it, the better option they're going to be. But they need to be athletic. And the two guys, the last 4 that we've signed have all been guys that can move around. William Crest was a great athlete. Skylar Howard showed to where he can keep things alive. Now, are we going to do, and everybody wants to know, are we going to do zone read? Are we going to do the read power? Are we going to do quarterback draw? We're going to do all that stuff. Now, are we going to major in it? Probably not, because we still want to throw the ball. We're going to continue to throw the ball. To me, the more athleticism and the more, just mobility that they have, it just completely opens up the playbook to where you can do everything and you're not limited to just doing a few things.
Along that line, so we see tight ends coming in this package. We see fullback / tight ends in this package. Stone Wolfley is one of those guys. You also got Ferns, the transfer from Michigan, that can hold that role. So it seems to us as though if you were the chef, the ingredient list that you're starting to put together is to do exactly that. I want to run power. If I've got a quarterback that I can run some power spread stuff with, I'll do that as well. And then obviously your bread and butter, which you're going to throw the ball.
I think that about covers it. To be able to be a 4-wide set, to be able to add tight ends, add fullbacks, add a bunch of backs, go empty, and just continue to have the playbook as open as it possibly can is what I'm after. Now, I can't tell you exactly what we're going to get good at. You got to be able to I want to be able to do everything that's going to help our defense, but we got to figure out exactly what we get good at before we're going to win football games.
Yeah, but it's nice to have the options, right?
Absolutely, and we've evolved, which is where I've wanted this to go for the last couple of years. The tight ends, fullbacks fit in, and we're happy to have Stone. It's going to add, and we're happy to have Michael Ferns, which could play H-back tight end. He could play linebacker D-end as well. We got a year to figure out where he's going to help us, but be able to add those bodies, create different gaps if something wrong. Majored in at Stanford, and then the athletic quarterbacks is where I've wanted it to go, just to be able to keep plays alive, and then add the element of the quarterback run game, which helps us offensively, but also helps our defense prepare for all the teams that they're going to face throughout the course of the year.
Now, Dana, is that in response to opposing defenses getting smaller and quicker? Is that why you wanted to go to the power?
Well, yeah, it is. That teams were getting so good at covering spread offenses because that's all they've seen for the last decade. Right. Everybody in the Big 12 runs some version of our offense, so I try to stay one step ahead of it, and there's a lot of teams out there trying to stay one step ahead of it, and the trick is figuring out exactly what you're good at, and that's what you got to kind of focus on when it gets closer to game time. We got a lot of time between now and game week against Georgia Southern.
One of the things I always liked about you going that direction, an old school indictment against a spread offense that throws it around like what I come from, is red zone deficiencies. They say you struggle in the red zone, the field starts to shrink. But you've understood ever since you left Texas Tech, adding that wrinkle, the downhill run game, and now the X factor with an elusive athletic quarterback, it's going to make you a better red zone offensive football team.
Well, it is, and it needs to, because we weren't great at it last year. That was one of the areas that we struggled on a little bit. And I think some of that had to do with the lack of mobility with Clint. I mean, you know, what we did with Clint is different than what we did with Skyler. I mean, Clint was arguably the best quarterback in college football for 8 games. You know, he did great, and that's the reason why we were 6-2. You know, with a couple of close losses to some good football teams. We have to get better at red zone offense. You know, and we have to get better at protecting the football. I mean, those are the 2 areas that we will continue to focus on moving forward, and I do think that will help us in the red zone.
Certainly want to be able to play power football. You know, you never know where you're going to be in a situation at the half-yard line. You know, with a big game about to be decided, you certainly wouldn't want to drop back and have to throw it, would you?
I like Russell Shell quite a bit.
Hey, let me ask you, a commit just came in with a very familiar last name in White, Karon White, the brother of WVU standout Kevin White, has signed 6'2", 200 pounds. You're not in the business of giving scholarships out just because his brother was good. Tell me about him. What do you like?
Well, there's a lot to like. Certainly, there's some familiarity with WVU, and there's some familiarity with Karon White when it comes to this relationship. So, you know, interesting story. He's a 3.8 guy at Lackawanna. He's going to graduate in May, so he's going to come in with 3 years to play 3. You know, so because he got ahead academically, it put him on our radar quicker. So we were anticipating that Karon was going to come out a year from now. But when we found out he was taking so many hours to be able to become eligible, I got interested in him real quick. Watched his freshman highlight tape, and it did remind me a lot of what Kevin looked like in junior college. So him coming in with 3 years to play is going to give us a lot more time to be able to work with him, and excited to have that body. We need some wideouts, and for him to be 6'2", 200 pounds, he's not a small guy, and he's not going to get any smaller. So to be able to get him in and be able to work with him for 3 years is pretty exciting.
You think you caught him because you think other schools weren't aware that he would be out so quick?
100%. Yeah, he wasn't on our radar until, you know, we got his grades in December, and he in 3.8 with a lot what does well academically. It got him ahead, and it put him on our radar. And Coach Galloway did a great job getting up there and getting to know the family, you know, which is actually pretty easy. But convincing him that this was the place for him. You know, he doesn't want to be Kevin White. He wants to be Karon White. Yeah. And he's going to have an opportunity to do that.
Dana, let's jump into that wide receiver position, because you do lose Karon's brother, Kevin. You lose Mario Alford. It is so important to have outside receiving threats. From a personnel perspective, where do you think you are? Not necessarily about this class, but where do you think you are with the guys that are here? And then, if you would, kind of allude to the guys that have already signed that are receivers.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're pretty similar to where we were 2 years ago when we lost, you know, Stedman, and we lost JD. We lost all our production from the outside. We lost 90% of this year's production to graduation with Mario and Kevin. So we're starting over again. You know, Lonnie's got his work cut out for him in the spring. He's gonna, you know, he's got some guys. Shelton Gibson has showed flashes of being a very dynamic football player, whether it was on special teams, covering kicks, or returning just the fastest guy on the field. And so he's shown flashes of being a go-to guy. Then we just got to get guys to develop. You know, we got you know, Ricky Rogers, who's young, got Devontae Mathis, who at some point needs to come on and be a player. You got Vernon Davis, who at some point needs to come on and be a player. And then we're going to sign a couple of guys, get them all in the mix, and coach the heck out of them all spring and in June and in August. So it's going to be an area that everybody needs to pay close attention to, and the guys that develop quickly are going to be the guys that we're going to count on to make plays.
Realistic to think that a Durant, for example, could get on the field this year?
Yeah, I think all the guys, all the freshmen, all the receivers that we end up signing, I would anticipate all those guys having a shot to play.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time. And you'll be addressing the rest of the folks at 3 o'clock this afternoon with that press conference. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Head coach Dana Holgorsen, we invite you to stay tuned. We've got more coming up here from the Pushkar Center. National Letter of Intent Signing Day rolls on. WVU cornerbacks coach Brian Mitchell on deck. He'll be visiting with us. Intent Signing Day being brought to you in part by United Bank. We'll be back.